Today we ask ourselves, has Tops gone too far with the Operator 7? Well, that's right, folks. We got to ask ourselves, is this knife just too ridiculous? Has Tops just gone too far, too overkill, and it's time to call them out and just say, Tops, knock it off? Or is this one of the most functional pry bars you could ever pick up in your life? This Tops Knives Operator 7, made at, I believe, 0.31 thickness. I mean, just look at the tang of that knife all the way through. Monster blade. Now, this is the deal, guys. I love knives. I love big knives. I love thick knives. I love thin knives. I love everything in between. I love knives. When I saw this, initially I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I love the lines. I love the ergonomics. I love the overall just design features, meaning like the lines and, you know, just how they shaped it. The drop leather dangler with the Kydex sheath, fantastic. Tops, great job on the Kydex sheath. Keep it up, guys. Check this out. I'm gonna do sheath right here with you. Totally snaps on, dangle, no rattle, great thumb placement, so I can pull it out, boom, I'm ready to go in that application. Operator 7, obviously kind of implying, you know, soldier knife, dual guards, makes sense in that regard. But how thick it is, I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. I've heard great things from you guys. You guys have been asking me, like, when are you gonna get the Operator 7? I wanna see you thrash on it, and we're gonna do that today. I am out here in the woods. We are gonna kick the crap out of this knife. I've already gotten a ton of testing. You're gonna see even more throughout this entire video. We're gonna do rubber, we're gonna do hard, as much crap as I can come up with. We are gonna do edge retention as well, compared to Tops 1095 steel, compared to this 1075 steel. They're using 1075 with this particular design. I believe in concept to give it more strength. This 1075 can tend to have a little more lateral strength than 1095, depending on how you heat treat it and all those things. So we wanna see how the edge though holds up, and does the edge geometry of a over 0.3 inch thick knife even work? Can you even cut anything, or is it just kind of like an angled pry bar that you couldn't carve anything with and it's just for stabbing and prying? So I'm gonna want to answer all those questions for you today so that you can make that really good choice. Is the Operator 7 kind of a one-done monster tool, or is it really just kind of a crazy, let's see how thick we can get a knife and you know, make it look cool option that's on the market? So let's go ahead and break this tool down, see what it has to offer. All right, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the blade and give you basic specs and jump into the knife edge and all of it and how it's performing. Got so much to get through today, but really excited for it. So what we're looking at, first off, overall length is gonna be 12.5 inches overall from tip to back of the handle. Blade length from handle to tip is going to be 7.25, actual cutting edge 6.25, so 6.25 inches overall cutting edge. As I've alluded to, 0.31 inches thick. This thing is a monster thickness, but still giving you a good tip down there near the end. So we'll talk about all of those type of things. A good fuller right in there to just give it some weight balance and all of that. The weight is 1 pound 2 ounces, so 18 ounces overall weight for the knife itself, and then more for the sheath. It's about 2 pounds, just shy of 2 pounds with the sheath attached. So overall, but very actual for how thick it is. I mean, that just to get, I'm doing a separate video here just to give you perspective. Here's a BK9. The BK9 weighs the same, and you know, that's a thinner blade, larger. So you're, you know, not bad for how thick the knife is. They've really balanced it out well. Now the steel is 1075 USA made steel, and so we're going to see how that all performs and, you know, what are its capabilities. We're going to put it up against the Top Steel Eagle for edge retention capability and just geometry, and we'll talk all about that because it's a similar kind of feeling knife, size knife that we'll look at here in just a little bit. But they have Rockwell this to for 56 to 58 on the 1075 steel, so that's a really good positive, and I've always seen good results with what Tops does with their heat treat and all that. It is a high saber grind. Basically, it comes up right here in a sweep and hits the flats right here above the fuller, basically, and then goes in like that. Obviously a recurve, as you can see there, and this is their acid rain coating. Very nice, holds a good resistance to wear and isn't heavy tractioned. It's very slick, which is great, not a traction coating. and you can get a couple different versions that they have a blackout version as well that's out there. But with that, let's go ahead and talk. Is this just a freaking sharpened pry bar, and is basically useless aside from just like stabbing stuff and, you know, like splitting? I mean, is that all it's really good for? So I'm gonna hit the heavier stuff, which would kind of make sense. Like, of course, yeah, it's probably good first before we get into the more finer stuff of really deciding if this is just a sharpened pry bar and just kind of a tops trying to see how crazy they can be, or is this actually a heavy duty hitter, high performing blade. So for chopping, this thing I will put on I will put it up against any day a BK9 like you just saw a minute ago. It outperforms in chopping the top Steel Eagle just because of some of the handle ergonomics. This cut into this belly, I mean, this is like, you got about 3 inches right there of sweet spot. Man, does it sing. And it really bites in very nicely into the wood, and with the weight of a pound and 2 ounces, 18 ounces coming down on the wood, and just the way they balanced it, very well done. And will absolutely be that kind of big survival knife for chopping, that for being a little bit more compact and still in that, you know, good weight class of, in the class of longer, heavier choppers. It will absolutely do extraordinarily well with chopping for its size and weight class, and you'll be very happy with it when you get that sweet spot and just bam, every time. So chopping, it is a winner. And obviously batoning, it is basically this huge thick thing that doesn't get bound up, which is great because of the way they've done the grinding. That 6.25 inches, you're going to span a lot of good size woods, really wood that you would need to split. You know, batoning to me is a necessity. You need to be able to do it, particularly with this size of knife, and anyone that would say you don't has never been out in the woods in the cold. You have to split wood open, and you can either use a hatchet or a knife, and if you don't split the wood, you're never going to get, you know, a good fire going when it's been wet and soaked, you know, through the winter and stuff. And I do winter camping, so this thing does just, I mean, it's easy. It just cracks it open, folks. I mean, it's like cracking a coconut, just boom, you know, every time. It's got a nice little drop, no clip, so it's not going to damage your batoning stick like a lot of other kind of combat knives out there. So you can really wail on this thing without your batoning sticks just splitting and flying in your face. And will just crack open all the wood that you'd ever need for a fire. Okay, so I never have claimed to be somebody who is skilled in like knife combat. I have never been in the military, law enforcement, anything like that. But I have used plenty of knives, so I know a basic understanding of what you would kind of want to be looking for the most part. And so when it comes first off to stabbing, the tip, I just wanted to make sure, you know, with the way that the tip is designed, is this going to penetrate and is it going to be strong enough? You know, is the 1075 too soft? Is it just going to like bend? Am I going to bend this blade? Am I going to chip it out? Did they Rockwell it too hard? You know, and this thing is a monster. Not only will you penetrate and stab a lot of stuff very well, but you can crank on this thing, and it's not, you're not going to snap the tip. Now, obviously, don't be stupid. You know, don't be sticking it in a, you know, a manhole cover and jumping on it and trying to snap it. But for the type of prying and, you know, tasks you would want a big, thick, heavy blade to be able to handle, bingo, did not see any sort of issues or problems with that. And I mean, it's a tank. And then like cordage cutting, so paracord, if you were you know, tangled up in a parachute, cordage of any kind, you flipped over in a Humvee, you know, and you got to cut yourself out of a seatbelt, all sorts of cordage because of the recurve. It's because of the recurve. If it didn't have the recurve, I don't know how well it would do with some of this. It accelerates your cut, and it just flies through any of those types of cordage, materials, hemp rope, all of it was just like zip, and it went through for such a thick, heavy, big knife. Was very happy, very impressed with. Now, finally, I have no knowledge, like no you know, skills in the sense of hand-to-hand combat, but when you look at a lot of other, you know, soldier, military, you know, style of knives like this with top guard, bottom guard, it's very well balanced for its weight. It's a heavy knife at 18 ounces, so you got to decide, is that something nimble enough for you? That's the balance point right there, right? The guard is the balance point. So really, really well done in that regard for the thickness and beef of the blade. And so when we talk about the finer woods craft, what really surprised me, and this was like the moment of truth for me, is that it was actually able to do really good with feather stick making and shavings. I was stunned. It's because of the grind angles and the edge geometry that they've been able to work into this tool with that slight recurve. Really helps it out a lot. And I was stunned, guys. I really was. I was like, I'm not really expecting a whole lot. And I was like, wow. super impressed with the capability that it has. Now again, this isn't some sort of bushcraft knife, you know, this isn't an 1/8 inch Scandi ground blade or something. You're not gonna be getting these crazy paper thin curls, and you're not gonna be able to, like, you know, make a wood spirit with it. I mean, that's not gonna happen. But for a survival knife, combat knife, it can definitely hold its own and compete with thinner knives in the 1/4 inch realm, like a BK2 or the Steel Eagle that we're about to look at. It can definitely compete in the carving and whittling tasks that you may put towards it. And even in the front end here near the belly, you can really get on that and get some decent carving and decent notches, you know, that you would need to do in that emergency situation, survival situation. Again, that wouldn't be my first choice. In that, I would rather have a smaller little pocket knife, thin blade, or, you know, some sort of Scandi ground little carver to do those type of tasks. But if this is the only tool I had on me and I had to do it, I could easily get the task done to make triggers and traps, or, you know, tent pegs or whatever it would be with this knife. All right, let's hit this handle, and particularly if you have large size hands, I wear large size gloves, guys, and this is like one of the closest things to perfection in this style of knife I've ever seen. Tops has outdone themselves. Here's why. So what we're looking for right out of the gate is a handle length of 5.25 inches long. Handle height for 1.25 from top to bottom, and it's going to be 1.01 inches thick. That thing is a beast, but completely rounded, completely contoured, zero blockiness anywhere on these handle scales, which are a mixture, from what I'm reading here, of G10 and micarta. They've done layering, they've done all kinds of crazy cool stuff you can see there, but you can see how well they've rounded all of the contours, no sharp angles anywhere on it. The back is nice and rounded. Back here near the pommel, phenomenal, zero hot spots with this blade when you are using it. I mean, this thing is awesome. What they've even done with the guard here of milling all around there, so there's no sharp angles. The jimping on the front end does not get in the way at all. They put a little hits of jimping on the front end right there, but those don't get any in the way or are sharp. So when you choke up, the finger choil is amazing. You have great control. It's really deep, so it's bringing your finger up near the other one. You can easily get right around that top guard, and again, because it's completely been milled, there's no hot spots or issues. The neck works great. So the control on such a crazy thick, heavy knife is phenomenal. Love the up close control. It's very balanced when you are using the finger choil. You can easily, again, get over it and do everything and all the work that you need to. Zero hot spots for this style of like a combat knife. It is the most comfortable choiled combat knife feel that I've used, period, here on the channel, because of the way that they have contoured the handles. Nice, not a huge thick neck, not too thin, deep choil, so you're able to get close and just, wow, is it controllable with no hot spots. Usually with the guard, you can reach over it, but you know, it's kind of angled and it is there, and this, it disappears. You don't even know it's there. But then you back up, and if you are using it in that type of style, you have a great top and bottom guard that you're not going to slide up and hurt yourself. You can do a reverse grip. Now, I don't know who's going to be using this in a combat situation, but if you're taking out a bear, you know, in your Grizzly Adams or something like that, or Jeremiah Johnson, you know, whatever, I mean, you are going to, it's not going to slide up and hurt yourself. You're going to have complete control. And that way, again, creating no hot spots just feels fantastic if you're just doing, you know, light hacks, larger cutting. Even when I do this motion right here, when I was doing some of the spear making and things like that, I'm able to get over that. And again, because of the distance of the guard, the roundness, all of it, I don't even notice that it's there. It just is almost like a support to my thumb, not a hot spot or a hindrance to my thumb. Back up there, then I can go all the way back and do chopping when I need to, and it's not going to create any hot spots. It's not going to hurt my pinky. I'm locked into place. It has 2 lanyard holes back there, and a way that you can, if you want to, run your lanyard in through the front end as well. That can hinder the Kydex sheath sitting snugly, but if you want to kind of make it almost like a saber guard, you know, think of like an old, you know, cavalry saber, you can do that. I've done that with the Silent Hero before, and it's one way of many that you can do the lanyard. But guys, from chopping to normal general tasks to choked up, you know, finer carving, the ergonomics all around are mind-bogglingly good, and Tops has done a phenomenal job creating this type of ergonomics in such a, what could easily be awkward, goofy, just unbalanced, not fun to use, not fun to grip knife. This is like use all day knife. Now, before we transition to the rope cutting test, I do want to run in just one competitive option and talk price point here with you real quick. And so what we're seeing and looking at here is a Topps Steel Eagle Delta class. This is the class that came out with like a year ago. Comes with now a Kydex sheath, just like on the Operator 7, but with a belt clip. And they've done a couple little tweaking to it, giving it a very similar finish that, that the Operator 7 has. And when you look at prices, the Operator 7 usually is going to go for about $150 to $160, just depends on where you pick it up. And the Delta class will go from $160 to $180. So about $20 difference between the two. You know, we're talking USA made for both, $1075, $1095. And so for that $20 difference, for that slightly lower, not quality, but just lower in overall steel of the 1075, I think that makes sense. You're getting a lot of bang for buck, obviously, with the 0.3 on the thickness, 1/4 inch thick on the Steel Eagle. And we will talk competitive in just a moment, like which one would I take for what situation once we do the rope cutting test and a few other things. But just wanted to kind of give you that size perspective. They're very similar in size, weight class. They both come with Kydex sheaths. And so that's what you're getting when you're putting down your hard-earned money for either the Operator 7 or a similar knife from Topps, and just kind of in that same ballpark, you can be thinking that. And so we appreciate when you guys use those hyperlinks over to Blade HQ, Amazon, as well as Backcountry, Knockaround Sunglasses, whatever it may be. That really helps us continue to do these types of videos, make the content week in, week out. Now, Topps did send this Operator 7 over to me upon request so that I could do all of this testing, see what it has to offer, do now this cordage testing, and just kind of give you an overall picture so that you guys can decide what is the best tool for you. Is it something like the Steel Eagle? Is it the Operator 7? Or is it something completely different? That's what we're always doing in these videos, giving you guys food for thought, data points, so you can make that wise choice so you're happy with your blade or gear purchasing decisions. All right, so now let's go ahead and get to it. Now I want to let you know, as we're prepping, I used 3/8 hemp rope. This is not scientific by any means. I put both of these knives on my Smith's ceramic rods just to put a shaving edge back on them. I did not do any sort of reprofiling. These don't have any sort of special edge. These have the original grind angles that came from the factory on both the Steel Eagle and on the Operator 7. I'm using both these knives because they're from the same company. They're using the two different types of steel, obviously, and are close in thickness. The Steel Eagle is not quite as thick, but that's why we're doing this. So just want to kind of give you that perspective. And we went to town trying to figure out which one would lose that shaving edge first.
Okay, so this is 42 passes. I can feel it catching now. It's nowhere near dull, but it's not slicing like it used when we first started the demonstration. It wants to catch a lot more frequently right on the belly there. So it's got little burrs now. Untested. Caught up. Okay. All right. So after having seen that, guys, this is kind of the conclusion that I have is that the 1095 started to slow down for me at around 42 to 45 passes. I could really start to tell that I was having to put a lot more pressure, and then when we did it up against the paper, it was starting to catch a little bit more. It just wasn't as slicey as it was originally. Obviously, it has a way longer to go before I would actually need to resharpen it if I was doing any sort of like wood carving, you know, even rope cutting and stuff of just general tasks. But that's kind of a general data point there. And then with the 1075, it was more around like 35-ish to 36 passes. I could tell, wow, this is starting to get slow. I'm having to put a lot more pressure, and then it wasn't quite cutting as nicely through the paper at that point. So they're pretty close, but the 1075 will dull a little bit quicker than the 1095 that Topps uses, particularly with these two tests, with these two blades, and these grind angles and geometry.
So there you have it. As expected, the 1075 did lose its shaving edge a little quicker, not as much as I thought though, which is great, which means that 1075 is really well treated to not only give you toughness and durability for the crazy tasks you might put this 0.3-inch thick knife through on the Operator 7, but you'll also have a decent edge retention on it, and then it's super easy to put an edge back on it. Now, this is the one thing to consider as we kind of bring this all to a close, give you my final thoughts, is that on the Operator 7, this recurve, though easy with ceramic rods and as long as you maintain your blades, awesome, no problem, and actually really helps the acceleration with rope cutting and different carving tasks, and then giving you a sweet spot for all that chopping that we've been talking about in this video. That it will, if you get some damage inside this recurve, can be tricky to resharpen if you don't have the proper sharpening system. So for some of you, you don't care, you're like, yeah man, I got, you know, the ceramic rods that I need, I got diamond stones, I got a work sharp belt sharpener, you know, I mean, I got what I need, it's not an issue. For those of you who maybe don't have quite the kit, that is something to consider, that it will be a little trickier for you to put an edge back on this knife completely, particularly in the valley, if you will, of the recurve. So that's something to consider, and that's something that brings up, again, the Steel Eagle, again, being very similar in weight class, size, all of that you would see, but again, no recurve. And if you were to ask me final thoughts, basically, if you're looking at, let's say, these two knives, and which one would you go with, is if you feel like you're going to be doing a lot of chopping with your survival knife, I believe the Operator 7 actually is a little bit better in the handle ergonomics and in the way the blade is shaped to give you better chopping capability and obviously batoning. So the super insane heavy stuff, it's going to do really well at, as well as a little bit more nimble, I feel, and better guard for combat use. So that's something to consider. The offset would be that the Steel Eagle, because it is thinner, because of the way that there's not as much of a guard that you have to worry about for choking up, and this sawback is insane for making notches. If you feel like you're going to be doing more triggers, traps, feather stick making, finer carving tasks, the Steel Eagle, I believe, will actually be the better choice for you if you are planning on taking this out into the outdoors. So it kind of depends on which type of work you think you're going to be doing more with your knife. And I hope that just kind of helps you, give you a good perspective on if the Steel Eagle is right, the Operator 7, or just something else completely, depending on these data points that I'm giving you here today, guys. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. For me, guys, this Operator 7 is definitely sticking around in the collection because it just gives me joy. And to answer the question, is this just a sharpened pry bar that is ridiculous and not worth really anything except for poking stuff and prying stuff? Absolutely not. It has a lot more capability than even I thought, particularly with the edge geometry, the recurve, and all those things. So it is a very, very functional knife at a crazy thickness. And if the lines and all the stuff we talked about today connect with you, I think you'll be really happy with your purchase. So it's definitely a performer and has a lot better balance and a lot more things going for it than I originally had thought when you look at it on paper. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's been informative, giving you all the data that you would need. If you have any questions, feel free to answer or ask in the comments below, and I and our community that we have here at Gideon's Tactical will do our best to answer them. Yeah, guys, I just hope that you've enjoyed it. If you're not a current subscriber, I invite you to subscribe, become part of the GT family. We're throwing up videos all the time. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. That's another way to see what's up and coming and follow along and have different types of conversations. It's really cool over there on social media. And finally, guys, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.